Boom! What's going on, Investomaniacs? Your boy Knight Rider here, and today we've got your Robinhood stock market update of the day. Up first, Domino's earnings reveal cracks in its delivery dominance. Domino's? More like domino. No. Shares of the Michigan-based Domino's fell 9% on word that sales growth slowed to just 3% for restaurants in the United States. It was even worse internationally. Domino's tech savviness has helped get the pizza to people faster and shot the stock up over 3,300% in just 10 years. That is life-changing money right there, people. But now, new technology is attacking it. Quote, aggressive activity from third-party delivery aggregators. That's right, the Domino CEO gave DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, and Grubhub the Voldemort treatment. He who shall not be named, Uber Eats. He dropped, quote, third-party aggregators 19 times in the earnings call with analysts yesterday, instead of ever mentioning the big four food delivery apps. He bemoaned the promotions they're all giving away to entice orders. The big four have democratized access to delivery, from McDonald's to Chipotle to Shake Shack. Anywhere you want food from, you can pretty much get it nowadays. Pizza isn't your only option. Domino's is trying to be more like Silicon Valley darlings in some ways. For example, it just added Track My Pizza with GPS. The takeaway, Domino's isn't a pizza company. It's a delivery company. And the delivery competition is on its A game. I mean, it's not making any money, but the competition is really, really hard, right? The competition is an A from Domino's standpoint. In the past, we were typically limited to pizza or maybe Chinese food when it came to staying in and ordering delivery. Now, the big four delivery apps have deconstructed that, and Domino's faces delivery competition from any place with a stove and plastic to-go containers. I think Domino's is an excellent ran company, but this is not the exact moment that you probably want to be holding this stock. Domino's is trying to turn a profit from delivery when companies like Uber Eats and Grubhub are literally losing billions of dollars in aggregate to compete with Domino's. Sooner or later, Wall Street will stop funding these big four type companies and they will be forced to raise prices. At that point, Domino's can then play on a level playing field. And that's when we might want to consider getting into Domino's. I also don't recommend Uber or Grubhub, by the way. Their current business structures don't make money. Once they figure out how to make money, then we can consider investing in them. Up next, Apple may be deep diving into podcasts because Spotify caught up fast. Pause. Apple is actually getting serious about podcasting after years of complacency. Bloomberg reported that the original home of the podcast is switching up its strategy from reactive to proactive. It's contacting podcast producers, asking them to go exclusive with Apple, meaning shows only for Apple Music subscribers. 50 to 70%. That's the share of podcast listens that happen in Apple's podcast app. Wow, that's dominance right there. The rest are divvied up between platforms like Stitcher, that's what I use, and Google Music. So Apple got complacent. It didn't give creators much data about their listeners, and it didn't give listeners a great interface for audio enjoyment. Then Spotify started to catch up fast. Here's how. Big goals. The CEO and founder, Daniel Ek, announced he wanted 20% of listening on the streaming platform to be non-music content, which mostly means podcasts. big acquisitions. So, Spotify brought podcast producer Gimlet and its 29 original podcasts. They bought them back in February, followed by 2 other podcast acquisitions. You might even call them podquisitions. It's committed $500 million to that initiative. Big results. Spotify is now second to Apple, jumping from near nothing to 10 to 20% of listens. Spotify shares fell 2% Tuesday on word of Apple's moves in the space. The takeaway? Apple used to create, now it somewhat closely follows. With iPod, iPhone, iPad, and Siri, Apple built entirely new product categories. Now it plays catch-up in areas which have proved that there is a decent market for it. Here are its recent second moves. Music streaming, copied Spotify. Apple TV Plus streaming, copied Netflix. The Apple Watch copied Samsung. Beats and HomePod speakers copied Bose twice. Original podcasts, it might just be copying Spotify again. Being late doesn't always mean failure, however. Despite being a few years late to the game, Apple dominates the smartwatch category. I like both Spotify and Apple, but if you are invested in Spotify, make sure you keep up on the news regarding Apple's plans and results in podcasting. Up next, 3 congressional hearings, 4 scrutinized tech giants. 1 4-pack of drama, please. Coming right up for Silicon Valley. The main event yesterday was David Marcus, that's Facebook's head of cryptocurrency, who suffered a grilling by the Senate. But all 4 of America's tech-powered giants sent lambs to get questioned and scrutinized by elected officials. Facebook defended Zuckerberg's new cryptocurrency. Marcus promised Libra would not launch until it, quote, fully addressed regulatory concerns, which may never happen. Politicians from both sides did not like Facebook's crypto moves given its marred privacy record. P.S. Bitcoin dropped 10% on DC's overall anti-crypto tone. On Google, President Trump said he would investigate whether Google has been infiltrated by the Chinese military. That's based on a claim from Peter Thiel of the PayPal Mafia fame, as well as current Facebook board member, that Google is an unpatriotic company engaged in treason. I'm a big fan of Thiel, but this seemed like a pretty large accusation to make on a national front while providing zero evidence. Facebook, Google, Apple, and Amazon. Execs from all 4 faced a different set of lawmakers who accused them of breaking rules set up to protect consumers from monopolies, as well as for having a bias against conservatives in search results. The takeaway, despite the political hate, the companies are still at record highs. The stocks of all these companies are close to their record highs. They've scaled their business models across the world and kept growing as people in developing countries adopt smartphones and the internet. And 2+ years of tech as a political punching bag has not resulted in laws or policies to rein in profits. I like all of Facebook, Apple, Google, and Amazon right here. However, to address the current concerns about these antitrust breakups, Facebook and Google are at the highest risk, in part because it's a bit easier to argue an antitrust case against them relative to, say, Apple or Amazon, particularly Amazon. Facebook in particular has been very aggressive with user data, and that will give them less leeway, generally speaking, with lawmakers. Amazon has a greater degree of protection due to the massive amount of people they employ across the United States. I know you're like, what does that have to do with monopoly? Nothing, but it has to do with politicians. Amazon has over 100 fulfillment and sortation centers in America, all spread all across America, roughly 500 Whole Foods locations, again, spread all across America, as well as 14 software development locations spread across America. They employ over 300,000 American workers all across America, right? All congressional districts, and pay those workers a minimum wage of at least $15 an hour. Not bad. A congressperson is less likely to inflict pain on a company which employs a large number of people in their district and pays those people a fair wage. This provides a layer of protection for Amazon, which Facebook and Google do not enjoy. Traditionally, Republicans are less likely to break up large businesses, but things are a little bit different in this particular case. True or not, many Republicans believe Facebook, Google, and Twitter have been trying to suppress conservative viewpoints. There are two arguments. First, these companies are less likely to promote conservative viewpoints from an algorithm standpoint, kind of like a search results standpoint. And second, these companies are more likely to consider conservative viewpoints extreme in some way or another, and therefore ban or demonetize the content, which in effect, in the kind of the results of it, it does suppress conservative content. If you can monetize liberal content but not monetize conservative content in the long term, that's going to suppress conservative content. Personally, I think the first argument doesn't hold quite as much merit. For the most part, the companies have stated the algorithms are designed to recommend more content similar to the type of content they have previously engaged this. I find this to be pretty darn true in my experience, and to be perfectly honest, sometimes annoyingly true, as I feel like I get stuck in an echo chamber. I almost never have pro-liberal views recommended to me. To build a liberal bias into the algorithm, it kind of doesn't really make sense to me, and it's not what I see in my anecdotal experience. However, the second concern over deplatforming and demonetization of conservative views is something I believe that may be a genuine problem, or more of a genuine problem relative to the prior issue. I've heard enough anecdotal stories from big guys who aren't necessarily conservative, but the kind of far left thinks they're conservative viewpoints, like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, and then Ben Shapiro. Obviously, he is a conservative guy, about demonetization. And they're saying how they're being demonetized a lot, and I do think that's a genuine problem. The difference is deplatforming and demonetization are decided by actual human oversight, actual human beings at these companies making the decisions. Because large tech companies have an extremely far left-leaning bias, the employees are more likely to view a guy like Ben Shapiro or Joe Rogan as hate speech, or not something that's advertiser-friendly relative to something that's a more liberal point of view. That demonetization creates an uneven balance where small liberal channels can monetize and therefore grow much easier compared to conservative channels, which might have more difficulty monetizing their videos. So in the long term, it creates an artificial overrepresentation of liberal channels. And by the way, I just want to mention this. The funny thing is, like, Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson, which are attacked so much by the far left, they're not even conservatives. Both of them are left-leaning. They just aren't part of the radical left, and therefore are often demonetized by radical left employees at Google. Obviously, not all employees at Google are part of the radical left, right? They have 100,000 people working for them. I get that. But a large chunk of their people are far left, and so that does create an unfair balance in terms of what is viewed as not being advertiser friendly. So now you have a situation where Democrats, I mean, they're just generally wanting to break up large companies, right? So even though Google and Facebook are pretty liberal friendly, Democrats don't like large companies, so they want to break them up. And then the Republicans, which are historically less likely to want to do that, but now they want to punish Google and Facebook any way possible for their perceived suppression of conservative voices. And by the way, have you ever heard like Amazon? Oh, Amazon is suppressing conservative voices. No, because it's a retailer. It's not that type of a platform. So Republicans are less likely to go after Amazon, at least initially. It's not something that's as much of a short-term concern. And both parties are less likely to go after Amazon due to the aforementioned employment of hundreds of thousands of American workers spread all throughout the country. So, although I like Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, I think they're all a buy. I like Google the least. That's the least I would recommend as a buy currently in terms of, and that's just for general. It's because I think they have the largest breakup concerns. And I also, just kind of from a fundamental standpoint, I'm not as much of a fan relative to Apple, Amazon, and Facebook on a risk-adjusted basis. In terms of which is the best buy, depends upon your goals. Facebook, I think, has still the best growth prospects. Apple is the best value play, and Amazon is the most protected from regulation. So what you buy depends a little bit based upon what you're looking for. Hey guys, that's it for today. I put my portfolio up for full disclosure. I really appreciate the likes, comments, and subs. Let me know if you agree or disagree with what I had to say, or if there are any other stocks you'd like me to cover. May the market be with you.